Good morning. I want to welcome all of you to our CalRTA Distance Advocacy webinar this morning. I'm going to be going over our updated website and also our new section called Virtual Advocacy Toolkit that we're really proud to present to our members. As you know, my name is Susan Dixon, and I'm your State Chair of Government Relations. I've been honored to have that position now for almost 4 years, thanks to Irene appointing me when she was still president. We're going to go over in depth the website today because we retooled it to make it more efficient and easier for our members to use. I do want to ask all of you, if you have questions, to put them in the questions section at the bottom of your on your right-hand side. Usually it says questions. We're not going to use the hand today. Type in your questions, and if I have time at the end, I will go over them. And if not, I will be sure to answer them via the Distance Advocacy website. One of the newest and most updated sections on the CalRTA website is the advocacy action. As you all know, our lives changed overnight in March. We were set to go to our advocacy in Sacramento, and 2 days before had to call it off when we really saw that this truly was a serious health concern. Thankfully, the Government Relations Committee has been using virtual meetings and advocacy for over the last 3 years. So for us to move into communicating on a regular basis virtually was seamless. We've now just increased it so that we are doing it on twice-a-month basis. Today, I'm going to go over how and why we stay connected with our elected officials. It is imperative, especially now, that we let them know their constituents are still engaged and concerned about certain legislation. I'm going to show you their website tools and support that we have for you to access at any time. The Advocacy Action section that is now on the front page and has been on the CalRTA website is open to anyone. Last summer, we made it so that anyone, whether you're a member or not, can access our advocacy tools and use them. And after building coalitions with other retiree groups, that has been a big plus because they do refer to ours a lot and give us suggestions of some of their ideas. The most recent activity we did is we came up with a virtual advocacy toolkit. Really important that each of our members knows how to stay connected, not just via email and phone calls with our elected officials, but you can set up virtual meetings. And as you know, the month of August is their recess month. And usually in the past, our members have scheduled meetings to go to their local elected officials' offices. Today, we're going to have to do that virtually. So I'm going to walk you through of how you can set up those meetings. This is the first page that you're going to go to when you go to our website. This is called the Advocacy Action section. And you can now see when you go here, thanks to Debbie Pate Newberry, she's just a whiz at making our website seamless. We've condensed everything into the 6 sections: the division, GRC resources, the talking points, current legislation, materials to distribute, this and that, and the virtual advocacy toolkit. On that front page, we always try to put something that's extremely important and assuring to our members, such as this 30-second pension update. When the governor's budget was proposed over 2 months ago, and there was a lot of concern about different cuts, we had members in a panic. So we wanted them to see first and forefront that their pension was safe. When you go to each section that you click on, you can see now under Division Resources, all the materials and supporting documents that you need are in that section. They might be repeated in another section, but they're imperative for this section. We used to do monthly postcards, messages, and addresses. The labels are still there for you to use. That's when we are meeting in person. Hopefully we'll be going back to that in the near future, and you'll be able to distribute to have postcards. We are now in what we call the Summer of Advocacy. The Government Relations Committee is just a powerhouse. We have been working hard and aggressive to get the repeal for HR 141 for the 2 Social Security penalties passed. We decided we could not take time out just because we are virtual now. So we have 3 weekly legislative alerts that go out. Take Action Tuesdays is focused on our Women's Bipartisan Caucus members. When the leadership team was in DC in February, right before the pandemic, we talked to the Bipartisans Women's Caucus Group and presented to them that obviously the GPO part of these penalties affects mostly women, and that is so unfair and economically devastating to many of our retired teachers. They agreed and decided that we should focus on trying to get more of their members engaged. We have been doing that for, gosh, now the last 3 months, and we have currently hit over 40 of the women. Every month I get a list of 10 more women who are on the Bipartisans Women Caucus, and we give you their legislative assistant's name or the staff director's name and email for you to contact with our email. I looked this morning and we are now up to 248 co-sponsors. That is unprecedented at this time with the communication having to be virtual. We only need 42 more to get to a 290 mandatory vote. The last 2 that co-sponsored, Lucy Macbeth from Georgia, just last week, we were emailing her for a month during the April time. And Tulsi Gabbard from Hawaii co-sponsored in June. She was also one of the ones. Now that's only 2 out of 40, but it's progress. So we continue to email and persuade these women to be a co-sponsor on HR 141. Our Wake Up Wednesdays are now focused on our state issues. And as you know, we've had some interesting state issues the last 2 months, and I'll be talking about those. And then Tell Your Rep Thursdays is again focused on repeal, and it has directions to email our key members of the Ways and Means Subcommittee on Social Security. This is just an example of some of the documents you can go to on our website, print, or email when you are setting up a virtual email meeting with your representatives. These are powerful. It shows that if you were to take and repeal the windfall elimination provision, the one that affects your Social Security benefits, if you're eligible, it's 1/1300ths of the annual Social Security output. You can see on the graph, you can barely see it. When you look at repealing the government pension offset, that is 4/1000ths of the annual budget output. Can't even see that on the graph. And then to repeal both, it's 13/1000ths of the annual output. As we tell our elected officials, that's a small price to pay to keep our retirees healthy and able to supply themselves with a decent lifestyle. We're not asking for anything that is not an earned benefit. Another one of the handouts that's been powerful with our legislatures has been this one, to show that when they would always give us the argument, well, you didn't pay into Social Security for teachers who only had a defined benefit plan. We show 2 other private sector columns where they didn't pay into Social Security and they're getting their spousal benefits while they're alive and then when the spouse passes. As many of you have seen this, it is key. This is a document. If you're setting up a virtual meeting with an elected official, you want to share how Social Security penalties hurt teachers. It's a quick synopsis, but it shows the realities of how these two take away earned benefits. Myths and facts. I like this one for just a general conversation when you have neighbors or family who go on about a pension and why should you get something that you didn't pay into. It is important to have these talking points. Speaking of talking points, the next section on our website is talking points, facts, and figures. Again, documents you can pull up at any time, you can print or send to your elected official. Facts about our pension. Now, obviously, this is going to be needed to be updated probably closer to fall when we see what our new budget will look like in the state. But when people say our pensions are draining the public funding, you can come back with how CalSTRS has a full path to full funding. They may have to change things a little because of the investments, but at this time, CalSTRS is on the road to solvency. Pensionomics, this is one that we would always give our elected officials when we went in for a meeting. It shows how pensions help the economy. In fact, during the Great Recession, they have shown over and over that a public pension helped save many states that were able to survive during those dark times. We're just entering this unprecedented time, health and economically. We don't know the long-term effects this is going to have on our budgets at the state. But again, a public pension is something that's going to go right back into the economy. As a retiree, we're no longer saving for our children's college education. We're no longer looking at upping our houses and putting money into large purchases such as recreational items. We're looking usually to support ourselves to have a healthy lifestyle. The next section is current legislation. This is one that, again, Debbie Pate Newberry worked with our system called MailChimp, and we now have our legislative alerts that go out and that are so easy to use that it takes me less than 5 minutes each week to do them. You can see if you are not on our mailing list, when you go to the archives, if you missed it or you've not signed up, you can join our mailing list. That ensures you're going to get those legislative alerts. If you missed it and you want to go back and act on it, all you have to do is click on the one, for example, email today, repeal WEP GPO. Once you click on it, it immediately goes to the staff contact. And you can see Chairman John Larson's is Nancy Powers. Once I populated it, it goes right into my email. It has her email, it has the subject, it has the message. All you have to do is sign your name. If you'd like to add a personal note to it, we encourage people to, but it takes less than 5 minutes to do these 5 people. Usually it's much less than that. It populates automatically. You can forward this to a friend also. If you don't know who your congressional representative is, we supply that with a link on many areas of our website. Under this, we also have current legislation. One of the most recent was Your Calls Worked. In April and May, Assemblyman Kiley in California wrote AB 2998. This was a bill that would have our defined benefits be taken to a point where a new hiree in a public school system didn't have to join into a defined benefit plan such as CalSTRS, but instead could do a defined contribution. You can only imagine if there was misinformation and a young person signing, if they do not sign up for the CalSTRS, how that's going to affect their future. It's also going to affect current active teachers and down the road retirees. We sent out the Wednesday alert on this, and the assemblyman pulled the bill. It was loud and clear between CalRTA and other retiree groups that we opposed this, and it was damaging. The other information that we put up is about the California rule. Right now, we're waiting on the judgment, hopefully in August, of the most recent. And then there are 2 more hearings. So if you go to current legislation, if you have a question, you can usually find the answer. We also have current legislation under the federal. Here are federal issues. Obviously, it shows us, again, it's going to be the HR 141, repealing the WEP GPO. Very excited to say we are close, and that's why we're asking you to be part of the Summer of Advocacy to get this to a mandatory vote, or we're asking for the suspension of the 2 penalties, or for the HR 141 to be put into a stimulus bill. Early on in April, I contacted Rodney Davis's staff, David Ross, and asked, how can we help move this forward? I knew we had the pandemic. We stepped back for a while, but we knew that legislation doesn't stop. He told me in the email then that they were trying to put it into one of the stimulus acts. The first act was the CARES Act. When we had a Zoom meeting with my representative, Levin, he reiterated the fact that it was so close that HR 41 was one of the provisions in the CARES Act. But because of the pandemic and the need to get those stimulus checks out to individuals and to get the personal protection plan passed, a lot of provisions took a back seat. So we are very close to be put into a stimulus plan, but because of the need for other areas, they had to pull it. We're still asking for that. If you ever are concerned, like, what are the states affected by the WEP GPO? As you know, all states are affected by the WEP. There's in some form, there are public employees that are affected. They're not just teachers. They could be a local fire department. They could be a county police department. They're all affected. The GPO, though, is affected by 15 states, teachers and educators in 15 states. Again, you click on this and you see all the materials. Speaking of materials, these are materials to distribute. This is when we were going face to face to meet with our elected officials. Today, I recommend when you're setting up a Zoom meeting, you send the CalRTA general information, you send the platform, you send the WEP GPO myths and facts, and especially send those graphs, because that is so powerful for them to see that it may sound like it's billions of dollars, but it's a small amount. Here's a copy of our platform. If you're not familiar with it, become familiar with it. We have those main areas: the CalSTRS retirement, Social Security and federal issues, healthcare, and public education. We continue to work for the secure financial ability of our public education system. That was apparent, again, in a state issue that our members jumped in. When our governor proposed a 10% cut to public education in his first budget proposal, we jumped on, did Wednesday alerts, contacted our assembly and state, and also contacted Governor Newsom. Lo and behold, pulled it out. There's no longer a 10% cut to our public education budget next year. And that's critical, because right now public education is facing enough challenges with how to get our students back in some way. and continue with a virtual educational platform that is solid and provides them with a decent education. The platform is decided by our members. Every 2 years, we send out a survey. You'll be receiving it in September. The survey asks for your top priorities. What do you think is important in CalSTRS? What do you think is important in Social Security and federal issues, healthcare, and public education? Once we receive our results from our survey, it's tabulated, and then we write our new platform. So please be looking for that in the fall. This is the background information that is just a quick synopsis for someone who's not informed about CalRTA. They didn't even, they weren't aware that the California Retired Teachers Association has been around over 90 years now. Myths and facts again about the WEP GPO. And then current bills. We have 2 paid advocates in CalRTA, David Walrath and Jennifer Baker. What they do is they are the experts who look at all of the legislation that's coming down within the state, all of the ballot initiatives. They decide which ones fit our platform, because obviously there used to be thousands of different pieces of legislation each year, and we need to be concerned with the ones that affect our members and future retirees. They then write a summary, present it to us, and the Government Relations Committee goes over each bill, and we either decide whether we're going to support, approve, disapprove, or oppose. We write those recommendations, present it to the board, and our board of directors makes a decision if they go along with what our recommendations have been. That's how we come up with what CalRTA is supporting as far as state and local and ballot initiatives. This and that. One of the newest and most unused virtual advocacy methods is Twitter. It is a situation where a lot of young people use Twitter. Our own president uses Twitter as a forum to give your opinion. What I suggest, and I've been using Twitter for, is to contact our officials that you are not a constituent of. The beauty of Twitter is you don't have to be a constituent. You can contact any representative, any senator in any state by just setting up a Twitter account and then following them. We have sample tweets about our pensions and the WEP GPO that you can copy and paste and put into a comment. I use it on a regular basis. I always look for a tweet that may have something to do with Social Security or retirement and add up our plea. We can set you up, show you how to set it up, a Twitter guide. It's easy. If you have difficulty, then all you have to do is contact one of us and we will walk you through it. But the directions are on this section. And again, it is one of the easiest ways to reach those representatives, especially the ones we need to co-sponsor our bill. Here's some frequently asked questions about the WEP GPO that's also on this section. Defined benefit versus defined contribution. As you know, the one bill we talked about, the Kiley bill, wanted to offer a defined contribution, a 401k type system. The defined benefit is what our CalSTRS pension is based on. And we strongly believe we need to stay in this area. So this is another snapshot for you to be able to look at and have your talking points if someone brings up, well, why don't school districts offer different types of retirement systems? This is our newest and our most important section, I think, on our website right now is the Virtual Advocacy Toolkit. We need to move forward quickly to stay connected with our elected officials. It is easy to set up a Zoom meeting with an elected official at the federal level. At the state level, they may want you to set up a meeting, and so we're here to support you on that. We'll take you through, you can see the advocacy kit has a distance meeting checklist, what you should do first before you even start. If you want to use Twitter, the webinar on distance advocacy that Jennifer Baker and I did a couple weeks ago is archived. How do you find your state legislature? The state senators, the assembly. How do you find your federal? Your 2 federal senators and your representative. We have a sample virtual meeting request that you can put in an email. We have our talking points. The do's and don'ts of lobbying still stand firm when you're doing a virtual meeting. I highly recommend you don't have more than 10 people. In the past, when we met in person, we would always say do less than 5. If you want to have a division wants to meet with an elected official, they have larger meetings that they can set up that you could request one. But if you want to have a personal meeting where you're going to talk about legislation or some needs that you have, it gets extremely difficult when you have a large group. Some of the materials you want to send are also here. The platform, the handouts. The toolkit goes through each and every one of them. This is our checklist. First of all, make sure if you're the person that's going to facilitate the meeting that you go through this. Are you going to make yourself the lead contact, or are you going to ask someone else to do it? It's important that we follow up. Contact the office through email. We have the majority of our offices, again, through our database. If you are unable to find it, email me or Jennifer Baker or David Walworth, and we'll be glad to direct you there. Once you get an appointment, and like I said, at the federal level, they'll set up the appointment. So be flexible. Then notify all the others, and then, because they'll ask you for a list, and they will email you the invite. Always confirm it, even in the past when we met in person. As you know, our elected officials are busy, so they're working. So you may have had a meeting that was canceled or rescheduled. And we always said it's better to meet at a different time than to not meet. Most likely you may just be meeting with staff, and that's okay. Staff are the members who take it to our elected officials. Make sure before you meet that you meet with your group. Do a virtual meeting. We have a GRC GoToMeeting site that I can help set that up, or the state site with Irene Wetzel. Always meet with your group beforehand. Just as we did in person, make sure each person who's attending has at least one question that they ask. Someone could be the note taker. It's okay to take a picture and a snapshot with a virtual meeting, but it's imperative that you meet beforehand so that you know what your goals and objectives are. During the meeting, we have that checklist of what you should do, and obviously, again, at the end, send a thank you. I recommend at this time, if you don't have postcards, it's fine to send an email thank you. We're going to go through all of these areas. As you know, to be virtually advocating, you can do it through tweeting, you can do it through Ledge Alerts, you can do it through the phone or a video meeting. Here's our section on there where you can find your legislator. How do you know who your state representative is? Who's your state senator? Who's your state assemblyman? These are the sections. All you do is put in your street address for your California assembly person, your city, and your zip code. Go back to this one. For your federal, you put in your zip code up at the top. It finds your House of Representatives member. Before your video meeting, as I said, we went through this, make sure you have a team meeting with whoever's planning on attending. Key things to bring up are just the same as in the past. How many teachers are in that person's district? As of right now, we only have 4 non-sponsors in the state of California. One of them is our speaker, Nancy Pelosi. A speaker, she's not going to sign on to legislation, but we have been told from her staff she supports the repeal. We have McCarthy, Nunez, and McClintock are the only other 3 who have not co-sponsored. It's important if you get a virtual meeting with them. If you would like one of us to attend, we would be honored. I think it's important that if you can have one of the CalRTA government relations people there, it shows that we will do our homework. We'll give you the number of teachers in that district. And in fact, when I went to Kevin McCarthy's office in February, I looked up and he had sponsored a repeal bill a few years past. So my question was, what's changed? Why has he not co-sponsored on these? I also learned Devin Nunez's wife was a public school teacher. Why would he not support that? Email request. Simple. You fill it, a copy, fill it in. How do you want to be able to have a Zoom meeting or a GoToMeeting? Here's a thank you. You don't have to use these, but we're trying to make it seamless and easy for you to be able to look at what materials we have and how do I set these meetings up? What do I say? Again, basic do's and don'ts of lobbying. It's not a time to argue. It's a time to be brief, to stay on message. If you don't have an answer to something, it's fine. Say, you know what, we'll get back to you. I'll contact our legislative advocates. Always remind yourself that they're just a person in a government job, hoping that they represent all their constituents. So it's our job to bring that up if they aren't in a respectful way. One of the biggest things, and this is where I wanted to share, the CalRTA advocacy has moved at hyperspeed the last few years. You can see in 2017, we just wrote a summary. What did we start doing? We started holding GoToMeetings. We were holding virtual meetings. We also started trying to create a coalition of other retiree groups. We started the alerts. They used to just be monthly. The Take Action Tuesday was the second Tuesday of the month. The Representative Thursday was, I believe, the third Thursday. We've now since moved those into 3 times, or into a weekly alert 3 times. In February, you can see what the committee has done. They literally, because we meet so often virtually, have been holding our meetings and coming up with ways we can get to the 290 co-sponsors. 2020, I have to keep updating this. You can see already through July, we've been busy. This group has updated the platform survey. We've rewritten our legislative alerts. We had a leadership group go to DC in February. We've had our CalRTA, Friends of CalRTA winners. So many pushes for legislation, not just at the federal level, but at the state level. Another area we always like to share on this is upcoming webinars. As you are engaged and involved today in this webinar, you can see there's more being added on a regular basis. One of the ones coming up this week is Zoom and I know Irene's going to be doing this, to hold, how do you do a Zoom meeting? This is an integral part of being a virtual advocate. I myself am going to be a participant in that so that I can see if there's anything I need to learn, since I usually use GoToMeeting. One of the biggest things, and I don't hear it a lot, but I used to hear it more often than not, was I've been fighting for repeal for over 30 years. I'm done. It's never going to happen. It's easy to become discouraged when you don't feel your voice is being heard. But if you look back at history and you start looking at really good things that took a lot of time, this is hardly any time. 70 years for Congress to pass women to vote. I'm still appalled at that my great-grandma was alive and wasn't allowed to vote when she was young. The Civil Rights Act took 98 years. Our first woman senator took 131 years. School segregation took over 177 years. The first woman on the Supreme Court, 192 years. Our first African-American president, 219 years. And Thomas Edison never gave up and did 1,000 steps to invent the light bulb. We have to persevere. We have to come together and use this virtual advocacy tool. I honestly believe that the more we have our groups advocating on a virtual basis with our elected officials, they will hear us and they will listen and they will act. One of my favorite quotes, and I always end before I ask questions, is, remember Margaret Mead said, never doubt that a group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And that is why CalRTA has withstood over 90 years. They have never given up. They have continued to fight for our retirement security. It is not just going to be the WEP GPO that we'll be fighting for in the next few years. We don't know the outcome of this fiscal crisis with the health issues that have taken on. We do know that it is going to be something that's unprecedented. We're going to have to look at making sure that Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security are well funded and stay in place. So, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and see if there are any questions. I'm going to look at our questions.
I'll help you with this, Susie.
Thank you.
And first, I'd like to say there was a statement of many thank yous and for doing this. The second question had to do with people are now having in divisions to have virtual meetings. And would you be willing to attend any of the division meetings to give a talk to a division for their activity?
Absolutely. And if you email me, I can set up the meeting. I'll give you some times that work around your group, and I'd be more than happy to. So, yes.
Another question has to do with if this session is being recorded, and the answer is yes. It will be on the website. It takes probably a couple of days to get that done, so be patient. There were some really thoughtful questions here. First of all, can an out-of-district person request a meeting, such as with McCarthy or Nunes or McClintock, or this person's rep, Donna Clark's rep is Hoffman? So can you request a meeting with another one?
They don't usually honor the meetings. When we do DC, they will allow us, because I always say I'm in the leadership position. So, but the simple answer to that is no, they're not going to meet with non-constituents. You can tweet them on a regular basis. And as we've had in the past, I have the staff member, the legislative assistant's email from McCarthy and Nunez and McClintock. So it isn't stopped at their website. If you go to the website, you're not going to be able to go through once your zip code's in.
Mary Dixon would like to know, why won't Nancy Perosi sign on?
It's not that she won't. As speaker, it's just tradition. They don't sign on legislation. She supports it. We met with her staff, the first trip of 2 years ago, when the 116th Congress came in. So it's not that she's opposed to it. It's just that's tradition.
Okay, I don't see any more questions at this time. Whoops, it looks like one just came in. On the CalRTA website, this is from Catherine Ellis, is the good things take time list printed?
No, but I can send you it, and my email's on the website. But I came up with that one just because it's kind of an aha moment when you look at things that took a lot of time and the commitment of dedicated people.
So not sure at this time, there can be a post document that can be sent to all attendees.
Okay.
And I don't think I could include that now that we're concluding our meeting. But there is a question as far as having a good, taking good things, a good time list, so they can contact you, and it could also be put on the website if people would like to download it. Is that correct?
No, I can ask Debbie to add that. I'll have her add it to one of our sections.
Okay, and so I'm just checking the rest of the list here and see if I'm not losing something. But for everyone that's attending, you will get an email, and it will ask for your evaluations, and then it will ask for comments. So if you have additional question, you can ask it, and then Susie can respond to that email question that you will send. That's all for now.
That's it. Thank you again. Have a great day, and I hope everybody had a good 4th of July, and have a good one. Keep checking the website.